In motorsport, data is absolutely crucial. The main things we're really looking for are optimising the performance of the car and the driver and making sure that we're not missing any performance advantages that could be left on the table. We're also really keen to see durability data. So we're looking at what's going on with the car in terms of progression over time for wear. Most of the sensors that we add in to the vehicle in a motorsport concept can really be broken down into 4 key areas: temperature, pressure, position and frequency. With a range of those sensors across the vehicle, that can tell us almost everything we need to know about the performance of the car. There's a really key difference in terms of the language that we use around these systems between data and telemetry. Data is all of the information that we've logged on the car, and that can take many different forms and many different refresh rates and many different types of data. The more important side of things in a race context is telemetry. That's some key metrics that we're measuring on the car that are transmitted in real time back to us on the pit wall. It enables us to prioritise the really important stuff that's going on with the vehicle at that point in time. A really good example would be something like, I don't know, measuring the charge cooler temperature. That's the temperature of the air coming in through the turbo into the engine. That's quite a narrow window that needs to operate within. And if we're operating above or below that, it means that the engine's operating outside of its window of efficiency, and that's really important for generating power. We can really see that in real time, and we can advise the driver while they're racing on adjustments that they can do to their driving style perhaps, or to some of the systems that we carry on board. After the session or after the race, we can then download a huge volume of data from the car. The real power of that body of data, coupled with a talented engineer, someone who really knows how to read it, is that we can examine what's happening and what has happened, and we can assess, is this normal? Is this something that is going to lead to a problem in the race? And also, is it something that we can optimise further? When we talk about the vehicle dynamics metrics that we really want to measure, the key things for us are the 7 rotations. Those are the 3 rotations around the X, Y and Z axis, which are pitch, roll and yaw, but also the rotations of each of the 4 corners, so each of the 4 wheels. With that in mind, one of the key things to measure with sensor data on a car is wheel speed. And we do that here with a wheel speed sensor that's connected to the upright in this corner. This measures the wheel speed of the front right. It allows us really to see how fast that wheel's going, and it tells us a lot of things about the car. Not only can it tell us things about what the car's doing, but it also tells the onboard dynamic systems things to do and things that are going on with the car. Specifically, it can tell the car when the front wheels are locking up and ABS needs to activate. Without these wheel speed sensors, it's very difficult to drive a race car, and it's very difficult for the engineers to understand what it's doing and why it's doing it. This is a data station, so all of our telecommunications and connectivity equipment, all of our radio frequency stuff, all of the voice communication stuff that we use to communicate from the pit wall to the car is contained within here, so it can be easily deployed at a racetrack. But it also allows the engineers to have a workstation that they can read that data from quite easily. So what we've got here is some of the data that we get after a session. We log this using a Motec data acquisition system. This gives the engineers a way to visualise and check all of those data channels, to check all of the sensors that we've got in the car operating correctly, and all of the things that they're reading are within the parameters that we set. We've got some really useful overview tabs here that allow the engineers to visualise each of the data channels that they want to see in specifics. We can load up all of the channels individually here on the left-hand side, and we look at various different things that we're logging. There's some really useful visualizations elsewhere in the application here. One of the ones I really like is the ABS plot. So what we see here across the course of a lap is all of the data points built up based on how much load we're putting in the car. So when the car's at rest, the accelerometers would be reading the center here, and when we go around the left-hand corner, the accelerometers are going to read over to the right-hand side here, indicating that there is some high load right-hand corners on the circuit. That's where these data points are. What this allows the engineers to do is to really visualise not only how much of the available grip is being used by the driver, but also the nature of the circuit. Are we spending a lot more time in high-speed right-hand corners? Are we spending a lot more time in the braking zones? And really we can tailor from that the setup that we've got on the car for the driver and the circuit. We can look at RPM histograms here, just to check that we've got the right kind of gearing for the car. We can also look at various different engine parameters. One of the interesting things that we can see from this plot here is that we've got a bit of overshoot on the boost pressure. So if we look at this pink line here, we can see as we're coming offload into a braking zone, the boost pressure is going over where it needs to be. We've got a bit of instability there. And so it might be that we've got an issue here with the boost control circuit or the actuator that controls the turbo. So during the race and during all of the sessions that the driver's on track, the engineer's got eyes on what's going on. So we can see from a live camera feed that we've got in the car exactly what the driver sees. This gives us a really good way of monitoring the track conditions ourselves without having to rely on the driver's assessment of what's going on. It also gives us the ability, as you can see from the data visualizations here, to see some various data channels. These are our headline data channels, so these are the ones that are really important to the durability and performance in real time during the race. us being able to watch those things not only frees up the driver to be able to go and drive the race, but it also allows us to assess really what's going on in the powertrain of the vehicle and issue any commands to the driver to make changes based on that information. So hopefully that covers the basics of how and why we use sensor data in a race car and why it's so important to have reliable information from reliable sensors. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content, and if you have, don't forget to subscribe for more engineering insights.